when I was taking on clients, I definitely was heavily focused on legal, but it was kind of by accident. It wasn't that because like I specifically niched down to legal. It just, for some reason, I attracted a lot of those types of leads to work with. So I wish I could say there was like a concentrated approach, but there really wasn't. It was just the way that my business is set up. And obviously it's very hard for someone to become a client of mine at this point. I make it very difficult for people to get in touch with me. That's by design. But prior to that, when I was taking on clients, like I made it really easy to become a client. So I had a phone number on my site. The whole site was built around agency and client acquisition. So I attracted, because of the type of content that I created, which was pretty broad, I would attract all kinds of different leads in. So if I was starting today with an agency, I would absolutely pick a niche and do everything in that niche. And I wouldn't leave that niche until I've occupied a lot of the real estate there, a lot of the market share. And I've talked about this before on other podcasts and other things, but it's amazing how much opportunity there is in just a small little pocket. Like, people think that they need to build this huge SEO company. Like I just published an SEO video on my channel, which was like the best ways to make money with SEO. And I ranked all of them, right? And one of the ones that I ranked as one of the worst ways to make money with SEO is to start a national SEO agency. It's truly one of the worst things that you can do because you will be competing against people that are very established. You're going to be competing against people that have a lot of capital, and you're going to be competing against people that are actually really good at business. And so there's just a lot of issues on that front. So it's much better to find a little small pocket where you can niche down. And there's only a few ways you can really niche down. I mean, number one, you can niche down by location. So instead of trying to be like the number one SEO company in New York City, maybe find a small city outside of New York City where you can become the go-to guy or woman. So that's one strategy. The other strategy is to actually pick a actual niche. And some people, this part is, people get a little concerned about niching down because they feel like they're missing out on opportunity. But in reality, by not niching down, you're actually missing out on a massive amount of opportunity. And so, I don't know if you want to go down this path, but we can go deep into this path here. Because niching down to me is just so important. Opportunity that exists when you niche down, everything gets easier, right? So like, number one, your marketing gets easier. So when you create content and it's specific to that one vertical, so like I tend to use endodontist as my example a lot of the time. And only because I had to get a root canal. So now I know that industry. But I did pay for that root canal. I think it was like $1,200 for one. So I was like, man, this is a very lucrative industry. But name how many like SEO companies that specialize in endodontists. You couldn't even name 5 on one hand. You couldn't even name it. No. So that's the case for so many different industries. So I actually have, not to like pitch anything, but I have a free bonus when you order my book. And in that bonus, I actually went and collected every single niche from Google My Business. So literally every single one, I scraped them all. I have them all in a database. And then I use ChatGPT to help me categorize the competition of those niches. So specifically for SEO companies. So
what's the book?
The SEO Entrepreneur.
I knew that.
Yeah. Right. So it's a book. It's a good book for beginners who are just getting started. Or even if you're making, honestly, because like at one point when I was making $10,000, $20,000 a month, although that was the most money I ever made in my entire life, I still was a beginner. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just throwing stuff at the wall, hoping it worked, right? And so even at that level, you technically could still consider yourself a beginner in many ways.
Did you see Hermosi, Brunson, and these guys doing the book, and you're like, hey, let me run that. Let me run that and see if it works.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I know the effect of a book, right? There's a lot of, it's funny when I haven't really talked a whole lot about like the book marketing and all the things that go into it. But the funny thing is when someone buys my book, I make no money. I don't make any money when someone buys my book. Like just to produce one book, it's about $15 and I sell it for, free plus shipping, which is just $10. So I lose money technically every single time someone buys a book, but I also know there's a lot of intangible things that occur that you can't even measure, right, with a book, right? So it helps increase your authority. It helps people see the value that you can bring without having to make a massive investment. And that can lead to things deeper into the future. Like, for example, I have an SEO training program, Gotch SEO Academy. If I give people value and for, let's say $10, I give them a $10 book, but they get $1,000, $2,000, $30,000 worth of value from that book. Well, who do you think they're going to go to when they want to take it to the next level, right? So that's the way I think about the book, is like it's just an opportunity to show people the value that ultimately I can bring to the business, their life, whatever that is. So yeah, like I said, we can go in many different directions.
Many directions. I mean, the biggest thing on my mind, first and foremost, because I've been watching you for what's the mistakes? If you were 38,
33.
no,
I'm old by SEO years though.
that's
Yeah,
true.
because I've been doing SEO since 2011, so I'm an old man by SEO years. So
You're 33. Wow, mind blowing. If you were going back, what was the mistakes? Is there a reason why you shut the agency off, or what are some of the mistakes? That's what I'm curious of. What
oh man, yeah. How long do we have? Yeah, I mean, there's mistakes across multiple areas, right? There's yeah. So business specifically, yeah, a lot. I think one of them in regards to like when I started my agency, like I said, if I were to go back, and of course I don't really like saying that because I wouldn't want to change anything I did leading up to this point because I needed to learn a lot of those things. But I'm saying if I was starting today and no one knew who I was and I had to just like figure it out, I would niche down. That's the one thing I would change, because it just made it really difficult when I would get like, I'd have an e-commerce client. Okay. And then the next day I'd be working on a personal injury client. And then the next day I'd be working on like a media-based website. So that constant kind of task switching across different projects is really difficult. As opposed to, let's say my friend Chris Dreyer, who just does personal injury, they get a new client. They know exactly what it's going to look like every time. Personal injury. So they're not having to switch. And as you know, Chris, I know you've done many audits, like doing an audit for an e-commerce site versus a personal injury lawyer, very different, right? You encounter totally different variables. And the funny thing is, because I've worked with so many personal injury campaigns, and this is just because I have, but they're very similar. A lot of the problems they have are very similar because they all copy each other, right? So they all copy each other. They all have the same issues.
What are they doing?
Right, exactly. And that's the same across other verticals too. So you go into HVAC, they're all copying each other there. Or electrician, they're all copying each other there. Like, so that's why niching down is so powerful. So I'd say that's kind of like one of the, I don't want to call it a mistake per se, but it's just kind of like a pivot I would have made differently. And then as far as the business goes, like I'll tell you one of the biggest ones that I don't want to say I regret, but I wish I would have done sooner was just getting on video. Like hands down, I avoided video like the plague. I just did, like, because I'm out of all the skills that I have, I would say like writing is one of my top skills. And so that was actually a handicap for me because I would say, well, I'm a good writer, so I don't need to do video like that. I'm going to focus on the thing I'm good at. So, and so in 2015, I signed up for the Yelp partner program. Wouldn't recommend it, by the way. I signed up for it. And one of the things that you had to do when you signed up is they would bring a videographer over to your house or your office or whatever it is. At the time, it was just my apartment. And so they came and they're going to film you like talking about your business. And I thought this was going to be like some super well-produced thing where like we would have a script and I could just like read the teleprompter and be good to go. But instead it was like, okay, you ready to record? And I'm like, ready to record? What do you mean? Like, so I had to, on the spot, I had to come up with like, I don't know, an elevator pitch for my business. And when that camera hit me, I'm not kidding, I was like a deer in the headlights. I just could nothing. There was nothing in there moving. It was just blank. I had nothing. And it was the most embarrassing experience. Like my wife was there. She was my girlfriend at the time. My best friend from college was also working for me. They were there too for it. And it was just humiliating. And what happened is like after that, I was like, I will never do video. Like I declared, I'm like, I will never do video. And so I actually did that for a long time from 2015 to I don't think I published my first video on YouTube until 2018, but it was basically from like 2015 to 2016 or 2017 where I didn't even touch video. And then eventually I got over myself and I was like, all right, I can't avoid video. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, everyone knows video is going to be huge. Like, it needs to be a focus. So
didn't have that wasn't Gotch 1.0 out before 15?
So Gotch 1.0 was 2016. So, and so I'll tell you why that's important, because in the first version of the Academy, there was no video. It was all text. So I literally wrote out every single lesson and then put it into a backend, like, any other training program, put it into a backend. And then you would just go through like the text-based version of my training. And it was horrible, right? So that was what happened. And I knew like, okay, this is not going to work long term. So then I had to, make that decision to actually start recording video. And because I was so afraid to get in front of the camera again, I decided to only do over the shoulder video. So I just got, I just recorded my screen and, here's how to use Screaming Frog and, whatever. At that time, I also had no clue how to produce good video either. So the only like microphone I had was like the microphone in my computer, right? Like the actual, like I didn't have an external mic. And so the audio was horrible. My delivery was just embarrassing. Across the board, it was bad. But the thing is, I recorded like 100 videos for the training, and it definitely gave me more confidence. And so I was like, okay, I feel like I can do this. Like maybe not show my face, but like I can record a screen. So then I actually went through, that was the second version of the Academy. The third version of the Academy, I actually went through and re-recorded all 100 videos or so with better audio, but it was still over the shoulder. And then
followed the Brian Dean format, the beginning, beginning thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and I didn't show my face at all. And then, so I just kept it like that for a while. And then I think it was 2018, if you want to call it the first video I published on YouTube, I actually just took a video from the Academy and put it on my channel and it didn't actually show my face at all. I think it's like an anchor text video, but, and then the first video I actually published was a talking head video, was the first one. It was like how to start an SEO business, ironically, was one of the first ones that I published. And you can see, like, I keep those old videos up, not because they're gonna drive views. I keep them up so I can see like my benchmark, right? So that's my benchmark, and I've made to see that I've made progress, and hopefully I have. I feel like I have in some ways. Yeah.
You've always been polished, though.
That's nice of you. Yeah, that's nice of you.
I'm sure the gentlemen have a few questions, I would assume, but another big one is for me, other than business, you gave me one big mistake, but I learned that one early on. But how do you have more than Gotch SEO? That's the first one, and the website, and how important is that blog to the overall business?
Yeah. So yeah, it's changed. Because my business model has changed as far as what's important. So like when I was doing agency work, the blog was really important. So publishing case studies, publishing how-to stuff, and then saying, hey, by the way, if you need help, you can work with me, right? That type of thing. So for me, I've always, like, most of my lead generation over the last 10 years that I've been doing this is almost all organic, all through content. That's basically all I ever do. So it's either going to be long form written content that goes on a blog, or more recently is YouTube. And funny thing is, for the Academy, most of my leads come from YouTube, which is funny because I teach SEO and I'm like, yeah, go for Google all the time. But like YouTube is amazing. Like YouTube is amazing for lead generation. And and you probably have experienced this too, Chris, but I think personally, the reason why YouTube is so effective is because I could write the best article ever, right? Like it could be super good, but you're not really building a relationship with that person when you read their article. Like they may be a great writer. They may really have a lot of direct response copywriting skills. And you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like I can tell this guy's pretty skilled, but there's just something about the interaction with video, right? It accelerates the relationship much faster. So like someone may need to read, let's say 10 of my articles to feel like now they kind of know me, they see the value. Someone could watch one YouTube video and already get to that point, right? Just because the value exchanges seems to be faster, accelerated. So yeah, as far as lead generation sources, I mean, if I had to rank them in today's world, it's YouTube. Actually, let me rewind. Number one is referral. Referral is hands down the best. Okay. Referrals, email is number two. So my email list is, the email list is just insane because I published this book a month ago, and I just send one email out and just sales just roll in, right? Like there's no channel really where you can get that type of like direct hit into people's inbox like that. So, and like YouTube, obviously we're kind of the algorithm, right? So you may publish a video and it may kill it for whatever unknown reason. But yeah, so referrals, word of mouth, in that category, email, YouTube, Google. That's basically my favorite. Referrals are more difficult to kind of facilitate in some ways. So I don't rely on them. Referrals come from doing great work. So that's where I try to do.
And it's for the same people that you did great work for. So that's the best. Yeah, that local video you did for SEMrush, that was a pain to not get. You were giving me a hard time there for a while.
Was I?
Yeah. Man, that was tough to get up there. Man. Well, what was on your mind, man? What was the objective? Did you have anything specifically you would like to chat about? I was curious about lessons. A lesson as in mistakes. Also, why did you go for info instead of producing more of the agency?
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good question.
And then are you pitching leads off of the blog and through the info product? Like, because clearly you're generating leads for service. Waste those. right? So those were the three questions that I was really curious of.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be helpful for you to know like what my business model is at this point. So, most of my revenue at this point comes from the academy, right? So most of it comes through the academy. We are building a SaaS tool, so that will hopefully come out next year. But that's kind of I've just slowly transitioned towards info products, if you want to call them that, education. There's a lot of reasons for it. Number one, I could have absolutely just stuck with agency, right? I could have just done agency, built up a very large agency. But the problem is I didn't love it, honestly. Like I personally don't love when I get paid $5,000 a month, okay, for a campaign, and I grow their business by several millions of dollars, but I keep getting paid 5,000.
Yes.
So they're grown by millions, but I get paid 5,000.
It's a fun aspect. Yes.
Yeah. And so for me, that was always like, I'm like, that's kind of weird, like, I mean, I understand you're paying a lot of money but like you grew much more than I grew in this relationship. So the win-win starts to get super off balanced. And I truly think that like client work, agency work is the best business model for beginners. I think it's like the best business model for beginners because you get cash flow, and cash flow is security, in my opinion. And so when I was starting out, like I came to St. Louis and I had no clients, like not a single client, not a single prospect. Okay. And I moved into my mother-in-law's house and I gave myself 30 days. I'm like, I'm going to give myself 30 days to be out of this house, living on my own. And I did that. And I literally, yeah. And
I was going to say a year later, I made it.
Yeah. Yeah. And no, within 30 days I did, but I was going crazy. Like I at the time, Craigslist, believe it or not, you can get clients from Craigslist. I was responding to every single gig on there, every single one, like every day. And I got my first nice handful of clients just from that. And within, I think I was probably like 30 to 45 days, I was almost up to like $8,000, $10,000 a month just from a lot of white label engagements. So I found some like agencies that needed help, so they would outsource their work to me, and that, that kind of blossomed. But yeah, I mean, the challenge with agency, I'll tell you, is you hear the word scale a lot, right? Like, oh, we need to scale our agency. But if you look up the true definition of growth versus scale, an agency by definition is not scalable. It just, by true definition, it is not scalable. And the reason is because as an agency grows in revenue, expenses go at the same speed. So you keep growing and you keep growing, but your expenses will not decrease, because as you grow, you have to get more people, you have to get more talent. And the bigger you grow, the better the talent you need to keep growing. So then it ends up it never ends, right? You just keep going. So you could make, an ungodly amount of money, but you're still kind of on that same path of like profitability kind of stays in the same range. As opposed to, let's compare it to info products, huge upfront investment, massive upfront investment of time, capital, effort. But once it's live, it's very scalable, right? So like in the beginning, like you're in the red usually if you've invested a lot of money and time into it. But over time, that starts to change, right? The revenue climbs, but the expenses start to decline. So then now we've got nice profitability. It's actually scalable. The amount of people that can consume the course is unlimited, given hosting situations as well, roadblocks there, but for the most part. And then the other one, which is the best of all, which is SaaS, right? SaaS is truly the best, but it's a big investment. I mean, it is a big investment. It's also risky, right? You just don't know if the tool is gonna have product market fit. So, but as far as scalability, SaaS is the ultimate as far as scale.
It's always like, I failed on that a few times.
Yeah. So for me, like at a very high level, the reason why I chose info, number one, I just honestly, I really do just love, like, that's one thing. Like when I publish a video on YouTube, like it's exciting for me. Like I enjoy it. Like I love the process of creating a video and creating some sort of educational piece. Like that's exciting. And then in Gotch SEO Academy, I do these twice a week coaching calls. And I've done like 250-ish. And I'm on there for like the last call is like an hour and 30 minutes, just answering every single question for someone in the group. Yeah. And like, yes, that's tiring after being like full speed for an hour and a half, but like, I enjoy it. Like I enjoy helping people get better, so, and unfortunately, like we'll just keep this among ourselves with working with some clients, but even if you're the best SEO in the world, even if you deliver incredible results for businesses, 100%. They do not treat you right a lot of the time. So they don't appreciate it either. It's always, unfortunately, what have you done for me, right? And so what I do is I like to get that early benchmark, like that initial benchmark for every campaign, just to make sure in case they forgot where they started. And then you have to sometimes remind them that like, oh, remember when you had a goose egg traffic and no one was at your site at all, and now you have X? Well, and they're like, well, our traffic dropped by 3 visitors this month.
And they watch it every day.
Right. So, yeah. So there's obviously a lot there, but like I said, it's more of a matter of preference and what takes no motivation for me to work on. It doesn't take a lot of motivation for me to do an info-based business. I just enjoy more. In fact, I would technically make more money revenue wise from agency than I would my info product business revenue wise. But the amount of effort and it's just a lot more difficult. Like I'll tell you, like the support requests I have for my academy is like none. There are no support requests. Like it just doesn't exist. So
chapter 4.
Yeah, but like in agency, it's like our image broke, it's never ending, constant stuff. And like I said, this is just my preference. There's a lot of people who love agency. Like I know Ruan Marino loves agency, right? Gary V loves agency, right? So there's something there. Like if that's your passion, you should definitely double down on it. But
did you visit Vayner? Did you go in there yet?
No, I haven't.
Just packed in there like little sausages.
I'm sure. So
like kids in there.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the last point is just like you have to always do what's best for what you like, your preferences.
How do you manage the internal turmoil between family and business?
Funny thing is I don't have a lot of that. So I'm probably not the best person to answer that. But the reason is because I don't really talk to my wife about business a whole lot. I try to keep business and family completely separate. To the best of my ability, right? I mean, obviously it bleeds over sometimes because it's like, okay, I wrote a book, I have to do a book launch. Like I need your help to like pack things, but there's, for the most part, I've learned that it's just like, when it's family time, it's family time. When it's business time, it's business time. And I just try to keep those things separate. So yeah, I don't personally have a lot of turmoil. I have a lot of good stuff going on. So
I understand the 50-50 split, but aren't you often wanting to run back to the business? And that's where don't you have a little Nate?
I have two. Yeah. Two kids. Yep.
So that's the wife is your wife, right?
Yeah.
And keeping business separate, but you always want to go back to earn more and chase the dream, right? But you're taking time away from little Nate. I need to chase this, but this is way more important. How do I stop this? That's way more important and go do this so we can have a better life. How do you deal with that, Nate?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I guess it depends on what you think is important, and that's different for everyone. Right. So like for me, I've had to put checks and balances against myself because I know what I'll do. And if I don't put checks and balances against myself, I will work nonstop. I will truly not stop working. Because I don't view this as work. I view it as fun.
Absolutely.
I view this as a game, and it's like a video game for me. Like I used to play Counter-Strike and Data Defeat when I was younger. I would play constantly. There's no limit to the amount that I would play. And I would never get tired of it. That's how it is in business too, because business is really just one massive game that you never truly win, right? Yeah, and so like at least in video games I could win, right? This game I just never win. So it's always an open loop, right? There's always more that you can do. There's always new YouTube videos you can create and new assets you can create. There's new products you can create. Like there's always uncharted territory that you can try to conquer constantly. It never ends. So because of that reason, I've had to put checks against myself. And my check is when 5 o'clock hits, no matter what I'm working, even if it's so painful, I'm like, I can't stop doing this right now. I need to finish this. And I've trained myself to do that. And actually what it's done, I've been doing that now probably for probably 4 years at this point. And my business has grown more than ever. And I think a part of it is Parkinson's law, right? So like, the work expands to the amount of time that you give it. So if you give yourself 16 hours to work, you're going to create 16 hours of work. But if you give yourself 8 hours of work, you're going to figure out a way to get that done. And sometimes that's going to require you to say, well, okay, if I only have 8 hours to do all this stuff, I can't do all this stuff. It's not possible. So I need to systemize. I need to find people who can do some of these things so that now I can actually get this done. So it actually, by restricting yourself, it actually forces you to change your behavior. And I'm just speaking from experience. And I can tell you, like, I don't even work even close to as hard as I used to. I mean, I wake up at 5 and start work like right away. But like most days I'm done 3, 4 o'clock. So, and it's gotten easier, right? I used to, like when I first started, oh my gosh, I would work like a dog. I mean, I'd work from like 5 to 10, like at PM. And I was burned out, man. I knew I could not do that for long term. So yeah, it's a constant battle. And I think, as you probably experience this, Chris, as an entrepreneur, like you almost feel guilty when you're not working on your business,
1000%.
right? You feel a level of like almost guilt, but you got to kind of check that, right? Because it's like at the end of the day,
only because you're failing for your family.
Right. Yeah. And and so of course my biggest motivation is my family. But also at the same time, like when it comes to business, it's all about leverage, right? Like Jeff Bezos has the same amount of hours as we do, so that's why it's not about working harder. It's about finding leverage. It's about building systems. It's about finding good people. Like I found my partner, business partner, Simon. I guess I kind of found him to a certain extent, but we connected and now we do our work together. And one great person is not like, it's not just like 1 + 1. Like, it's not like me plus Simon equals 2. It's like me plus Simon equals 1,000, because one person can radically transform everything that you're doing, like radically. And so finding that person should be, I would hope would be everyone's goal, because it's so impactful. I can't even stress it enough.
How do you trust somebody with something that took you so long to build? Just
based on the work that they do, right? Like I don't bring someone on my team because they have a nice resume. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like I'd rather have someone who just I want to see what they've produced and what they do. Simon in particular, like I had already known that he had already done thousands of sales calls and closed those deals. So I already knew. And then of course I talked to him myself and I can see he's different than the average person. And you just see it. Like you know when you're around someone who's next level, right? Not your average. And you don't need to like, there's all this funny stuff with like business owners who make their like prospective employees take all these like personality tests and all this stuff. And it's like, okay,
can you produce or not?
No, you just have they done the work well that you're bringing them on for, and is there proof of it? And if the answer is yes, and they're cool to work with, and you like them, and you guys gel together, then that's a good fit. And like Simon and me, we go to war almost weekly on all kinds of stuff all the time. We go to war, but at the end of it, there's no hard feelings. We're direct. We go for it because we know it's not about us. It's about the business. So treat it like a separate entity as opposed to the person per se.
And I haven't seen you look at the clock once. How much time do you have?
Probably till 11.
It's a pleasure too, by the way. Thank you for giving me the time. One of the next things though is because things change very rapidly and there's multiple dynamics, right? There's ads, there's maps, there's local. So if you're teaching, how do you stay ahead? Are you testing stuff?
Yes, that's a good question. So I think one of the biggest fears is people like when they hear that I don't do agency, and they're like, oh, what kind of testing I do is pretty psychotic. I mean, I build out microsites just to do testing. Yeah, I'm constantly in the weeds, right? And on top of it, the way my academy is structured, I have to bring my A game constantly. I can't show up to a call and be like, I don't know how to do SEO. I don't know what AI is. Like, like that wouldn't work, right? Like I need to be on my A game to be able to give value to the members. And so I'm constantly in the weeds, almost in a disturbing level. So
being disturbed. Well, so in recent times, I'm sure you can't divulge the most intricate details. What type of stuff are you looking at? I'm not interested in the AI stuff. Like, what are you looking at besides that? What are you primarily looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily like what I'm looking at is usually based on the system that I'm deploying. So like I'm very like this is kind of in my training. What I do is I show my system that I use from A to Z. So like when I start a campaign, I have a process that I go through every single time. And each component piece is a system within itself, right? So like keyword research is a system. Doing an audit is a system within itself. And then how to actually go about fixing the things that you find in that audit as well. And then actually I even have a system for, and this is really important. This is something I discovered probably like, I want to say like 4 years ago was I don't know what I was listening to, but at some point I heard about the mechanism called ICE or ICE. Which is impact, confidence, and ease. Okay. And this is what SaaS companies use when they're trying to decide like, okay, should we do this new feature or should we do this marketing campaign? Like they're trying to decide where to focus their effort, right? So how impactful is this thing going to be? How confident am I that it's actually going to produce the outcome that we're going for? And then how difficult or easy is it going to be, right? If it's really easy, then it should get a high score. If it's really difficult and it's going to require a lot of effort, it should get a lower score, right? So the reason I'm saying that is because I started to use this mechanism for SEO. So I started to look at all the different things that we can do in an SEO campaign. I started to actually categorize those actions. So like updating a meta description, low impact, high confidence, but it's very easy, right? So then you can get a total score and then you can start to do that. So acquiring backlinks, we know high impact, 10 out of 10 on confidence. And as far as ease, that depends on your systems, right? So for me, my systems are good. So that's like going to get like a score of like a 30, So just being able to do that is really important because when you're working on an SEO campaign, there's an endless thing of things that you can do, right? And when you have teams that report to you and people that are doing work for you, you can just be like, hey, do this SEO stuff. You got to be like, no, we need to focus on these things because this is actually what's going to drive the results. Me updating an alt tag isn't going to do anything. Like, it's just like in the grand scheme of things, that one little thing is not going to do anything. So thinking about what those really heavy levers are to drive results. And I know I'm getting off point here, but this is just thinking about it in terms of systems. As far as testing goes, I would say the things that I test the most, one thing that I see myself testing most frequently are page upgrades. I'm a big fan of testing page upgrades. So taking an asset that has, let's say, fallen out of favor with Google. Okay. So maybe it was number 1, now it's number 7, right? And it's been stuck at number 7 for 2 months. What can I do to that page to bring it back to number 1? And the levers that you can pull are going to be pretty different sometimes, just depending on what you see. So sometimes it's simple. Sometimes it's like, this page just is a little outdated. Like, let's just update it a little bit more. And the funny thing is, I tested this countless times, but if you take a page that, let's say it did drop a little bit, it's still in the top 10, but it just fell. It's on its number 1 spot. I've done this countless times where I literally just save all the images on the page to my desktop, and then I re-upload those images to get the new updated file name and republish the content, and the rankings go up. And the reason is because we know that Google is crawling, like if we view Google as a crawler, it's crawling the page and it's seeing these outdated images, outdated files, right? So basically what you've done is you've injected freshness into that page by updating the images. And to Google's crawlers, it's like, oh, this must be something new. And then you start to tap into that freshness algorithm. So I'm always looking for ways to increase the freshness on a page that has dropped. And usually, like, there are times where I look at a page, I'm like, this thing needs to be just deleted and start over. Like, it just, there's no, like, I'm not going to try to put duct tape over this thing. Like, I'm just going to, it's the wrong angle. It's the wrong intent. Like, something is wrong with it. It needs to change. But other times I'm like, all right, what adjustments can we make? And other times it's as simple as like just changing the intro can have a huge impact, right? Sometimes some people go long-winded intros, like 3 paragraphs before we get into the meat. And I've had ones where I've cut down all the fluff and just changed it to like, 3 tiny short little punchy sentences and then republished. And the way you could track this, by the way, if it works, is number 1, use SEOtesting.com. I don't have any affiliation with them, by the way. So just the tool that I use. And then the other thing that I use, and this is a new thing I've been doing over the last year and a half or so, is I use a user tracking tool. So there's Hotjar. The one I use is Mouseflow. And what I do is when I go in there and I look at the pages that have, let's say, dropped in rankings, and I see how are users engaging with that page. And if I see that users are dropping off right at the intro, like at a high percentage, something needs to change, right? So I'm looking more at the pages, not from like Google's algorithm. I'm looking at like, how are users, what are they doing? Like, what are they doing on this page? Because at the end of the day, like, Google's algorithm is just a lagging metric, really. It's a lagging algorithm. It's just reacting based on other things, right? It's reacting based on the user signals. It's reacting based on links. It's reacting based on other variables. If you can influence the stuff there, it will likely lead to better SEO performance. And like I said, as far as the type of testing, sometimes they're micro tests. Like I'll A/B test intros. Other times it's a complete like split test where it's like one page that's radically different from another page and run those against each other and see which one performs better. But at a certain point, you start to realize like, okay, I know what is going to work, right? And 9 times out of 10, when you update or upgrade a page that's already doing pretty well, usually you'll see better performance.
And I have a lot more questions, but I want to be able to give these guys a little bit of time. So, sure. But it sounds to me though that it sounds like you're a very strong, what's the word? Would you maybe help bring users to the page without being real users?
You're saying to influence the algorithm in that regard? I mean, obviously there's obviously different ways to do things, right? There's grayer hat kind of ways of doing things. Just not the side that I tend to lean on, but I have nothing against it. I think however you want to rank is the way you want to rank. It's just a matter of risk tolerance, right? For me, my risk tolerance is lower than it used to be. It used to be a lot more, I used to be a lot more riskier. Like I did private blog networks. I did a lot of sketchier stuff. But I've just gone more towards like this, I don't want to call it the safer route. I'm not like, super pro Google. Like I only follow the guidelines, but it's more of like, I just don't want to I won't do anything that's artificial. Let's call it that to a certain extent.
Fair enough. So,
and the thing is like, it's when you use a tool like Mouseflow, for example, and you see how users really interact with pages. I hate to get into Google conspiracy theories, but like if you're using Google Chrome, I I would suspect that Google can move that data over to search, right? I would suspect that that data is blended across different departments, right? They claim that it's not, but why would they not? Like if you think of Google as a SaaS tool and like you had your own SaaS tool, why would you not use data at your disposal to determine if real people are using content in the way that they behave? So when you, like, I would recommend just installing a user tracking tool just so you can see how users engage on a page. Because it trains you a lot to be like, oh, I see. They don't like when there's a big freaking image that pushes the content all the way below the fold. Oh, I realize that the pages that load really slow, like no one likes that. Right? Like it's like there's some obvious things you start to see, and then you have quantifiable data to make, you know, those better decisions. So yeah, I'm a big fan. And also one little thing on that as well is this is also part of my, I don't want to call it conspiracy theory, but you know, with Google Analytics 4, you know, that new metric in there, which is engagement rate. I mean, why is that why is that a metric? Engagement rate, why is that a metric? Like, it's not an accident. There's a reason why that's in there, because at least the Google Analytics department believes that that's an important metric. Otherwise, they wouldn't put it in there, right? So if it's important to them, it's probably important to Google, right? And so the way it's measured is that's up for debate, right? And how well Google can measure it. But like I created, I know you didn't want to talk about AI, but I did create, this is like right when ChatGPT came out in November. I created a script timer. So I used ChatGPT to give me the code for a script timer. And the only reason I did that is because for my own YouTube videos, I would always go to this one script timer. I'm like, it's so annoying. I'll just create my own script timer. So I just used ChatGPT to create it. And the reason I'm saying that is because when I look at the mouse flow metrics on that page, the engagement on that is just insane. Like, you should see how many clicks, how much engagement is on that page. And of course it ranks super well. And it's like, Gotch SEO is not relevant for script timer. Like that's not, I don't have topical authority for that. But so
you're a big fan of that, I take it.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I just think it's overblown a little bit in some ways. I think links are more important.